I am a dungeon master who likes to write. I know it's shocking, for some reason dungeon masters tend to be storytellers. Who would have thought it? Now, if we could only find some players who like to read. This might take a while. Hello my minions, DM Daniel here. Today I want to talk to you about using in-game books for your campaigns. In my current campaign, Mists of Eldoria, I am very fortunate to have two separate groups who are both very fond of studying lore and the history of my world. So, naturally, since I like to write, I wrote initially some texts and sent them to my players as PDFs. But, as many of you already know, I really like to use props in my game, so it wasn't long until I started printing them out to give to them. And I want to take you guys through the different iterations of the books that I went through, so you may be inspired by some of the ideas for your own campaigns. This isn't going to be a tutorial, it's more of a quick walkthrough of the different methods that I've used so that you can see the results. If you would like me to make a tutorial of some of the specific methods that I did, just please let me know and I'll see if I can make something good enough to upload. So the first thing that I did was to get hold of a journal. You can buy these fairly cheap. And what I did was I simply used the in-game paper that are in these journals. Simply took them out, put them in my printer and printed them out. It worked fairly decent, I'd say. Looks pretty good. Besides the point here that these pages are finite, and many of these notebooks come with lined paper, and you have to load them in, at least for my printer, one page at a time. Aside from that, this is pretty good. But I wanted to streamline the process. I didn't want to spend half an hour just putting in papers into the printer. So the next thing I did was try to use a different journal where I simply printed out the papers myself. These were the first ones that I used. It's good enough. It gets the point across. It doesn't really look very fantasy or old or anything, but it's still fairly good. Then I tried getting hold of some thin craft paper where I simply did the same. There are actually 3 books in here. You can see it by the tabs up here: the Chronicles of Taldovex, Eldorian Legends, and the Merchant King. These are all in here at this point. And this doesn't feel very bookish. It feels more like a journal where someone put down specific genre-specific journals. The problem with this is that it doesn't feel like they have 3 books. It feels like the players have a journal. So, what I did after that was I tried simply to bookbind myself. I looked at some tutorials online and simply tried to bind some books. It's actually fairly simple. You just print out the paper, fold it, and then you poke some holes through and then put some thread through it, and then you actually have a book like this. This is actually a pretty thick book. I have had to use 2 bundles, as you can see here. This is the first attempt at that, so this doesn't look that well. I'll have to try to do that. Mostly I only have 1 bundle like so, where I just put the cover on like this. The cover is just simple, thick craft paper. This doesn't look pretty, but it feels amazing to hand your players a book, and my players have really started to enjoy getting these from me. I really enjoy making these, and they actually were very quick to make. I think the last time I made a batch, I made like 7 books. Printing out and binding them took less than an hour for 7 whole of these pamphlets. But they still they don't look very nice. So the next thing I did was I made these. These are exactly the same, made in the same way. The only exception is that I used 2 pieces of craft paper here. I bound the book exactly like this. Then I kind of put just another piece of craft paper on top, I glued them, and then I glued a single piece of paper for the cover on top of the outer craft paper. They look better. Of course, they don't look perfect, but having these books and giving these books to my players, that was an amazing feeling. They have both a front cover and a back cover, and it's just amazing. This took way too long for me to want to do this every time. This is just too much work for this, and for it not to look perfect. If it looked amazing, then I would probably do it for everyone, but I want to make something better than this. And this is actually where I have moved on to something new that I'm currently experimenting with. Oh, this is amazing. This is my new journal that I just made. I literally just picked it off the presses where I had some weights on here where I kind of pressed the glue and the cover together. This is fantastic. I got hold of some synthetic leather for cheap, and then just cut out a size, pretty much the size of an A4, a little bit bigger than that, and then just used regular paper glue to glue it to the covers. Fantastic. It's really an amazing feeling. I am very, very excited about this. This is fantastic. This is better than I thought. I thought it would be difficult to get the leather onto the cover, but it wasn't. This is amazing. This looks like a journal, and for this specific one, this is actually a journal that one of the NPCs kept for years. It's like a diary of some sort that he used. So this fits with not having a front cover or anything like that. This is just a regular journal that he used. But I have a few ideas for what to do with the covers. I could do something similar to this and then glue some paper onto the cover here in some kind of way. I'm gonna make a new video once I've experimented a little bit with that. Then I know that it's also possible to make indentations in leather, and I'm gonna try to work with that. Basically, if you have something like this and you press it hard onto the leather, then it kind of makes an indentation, and it's okay with this because this is 30 years old. You would expect it to have some indentations. This is not 30 years old. The character who used that have used it for 30 years, but you can use that. I'm gonna have to see how well that will work. Another thing I've seen someone do is 3D print something to put under the cover between the craft paper and here to make like not an indentation but an outdentation. I don't know what that's called in English. And the last thing I've seen is that you can use a laser cutter or laser engraver, I guess it's called, to simply engrave something onto here. I have a local library with a craft shop where you can rent an engraver. I'm gonna try that at some point to see how that works, and if that works well, I've seen that you can customize an old 3D printer. I have an Ender 3 3D printer that I'm not really using anymore, that I could potentially convert into my own laser engraver and engrave fairly quickly, pretty pretty detailed covers for these. I am really, really excited about this. I thought it would take a long time, but it literally only took like 5 minutes to glue this leather onto here, and it just feels amazing. If I can find some kind of cheap imitation leather or something, this is definitely what I'm gonna do for all the books, and then I'll just have to figure out some way to make covers for this. I also wanted to show you some of this paper that I made. This is not craft paper that I bought. This is actually regular photocopy paper that I aged and smudged up with coffee. And I'm gonna make a tutorial about how to do that for at some point, because you can use that for all kinds of fun games or fun things in your game, like these notices for the notice boards that are in the cities and the taverns. It's really fun when you actually have a physical notice board that you hand the players, and then they choose, like, we want this job or we want this job or something, instead of simply telling them about this. But you can do that with either, this is actually aged paper that I bought, or as I showed you in here, where it's paper that I've aged myself. And I'm gonna make a tutorial about how to do that at some point, but it really adds a whole new touch to your books. So these are all the different kinds of books that I am using right now for my campaign. And all of this works amazingly well. So if you have a group, if you're lucky enough to have a group of players who are interested in the lore of your world, and if you like to write, then I will definitely recommend that you do this. If you do not like to write but still like to run lore heavy campaigns, you can always use my campaign, Mists of Eldoria, where I take everything that's available, everything that I've made, I've uploaded it to my Patreon where everyone can download it for free. You can simply go there and sign up as a free member, then you will get updates. I've just uploaded today this new book that I wrote, and as I move along with my players in my world, the world will get more detailed, and you are welcome to use any and all of that for your own campaign. Alright, I guess that's what I wanted to say today. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!